Yo, what's up, everyone? And welcome back to the Repster, where movies and entertainment are our reputation. So, The Thing was released in 1982, was directed by John Carpenter, and stars Kurt Russell. And it follows the story of a research team in Antarctica who is hunted by an alien shape-shifting parasite that takes the form of its victims. I really enjoyed this film for what it was. Like The Blob, I enjoyed it so much. There's very few moments where I didn't really find myself being taken out of the film. Slipping into my positives, that has a lot to do with the story. It's very enticing, it's very, very engaging, it's very well told. It's basically about this research team that's in this outpost, and they come across this space shuttle that was in a Norwegian camp close by them. They had to take a helicopter, so I'm not really sure how many miles there was between them and this camp. But they had to take a helicopter to this Norwegian camp after this incident in the beginning where this man in a helicopter was chasing his dog, and that's the whole thing I'll get to later, but they came across the spaceship. It was one of those great setups that you want in a film like this, and you find out that this ship has landed like several thousand years ago, so it's been here for generations upon generations upon generations. So that was a nice little build-up, and then the movie just goes on from there. As I mentioned before about the setup, it was very nicely done. You have this man in this chopper chasing after this dog and like shooting at it, and you don't know why at first. You get to realize, wait a minute, okay, there's something more to this dog, supposed dog, than the naked eye is revealing to you. It's one of those setups that's worth it, because once you see what this dog turns into, ooh shit. It just sets up the rest of the film very nicely. And which brings me to the setting. And I'm going to put the look and feel in this same area too, because the setting and the look and feel are one. And it was beautifully done. Of course, Dean Cundey, who's done many of John Carpenter's flicks, has come back to do the cinematography work on this. And as usual, it's very, very well lit. This man knows what he was doing. I mean, he knows what he's doing. It's just very slick. It's just very beautiful-like. It's very lively-like. It was perfect. And the widescreen aspect ratio, I noticed John Carpenter does every single one of his films like that. I know he's not the only filmmaker that uses this style, but I think that the widescreen choice for his filmmaking is very wise. It widens the picture, especially if you have like one of those 65-inch screens, which is what I have. Looks really good. But yeah, Dean Cundey has this way about him that's just very stylistic. I mean, you can see it in every single one of his films. Halloween, They Live, The Thing, and it just goes on, and he's got his own brand of style, and it's really neat. This film, some of it was filmed in very cold situations. From what I can tell, the cast and crew had a really good time doing this, and that's good. If you're in a crappy environment and you still enjoy doing what you do, that will really show in the film, and that will really show dedication. And I think that's what this film pulled off. And other parts of it was filmed at the Universal backlot, or the Universal Studio, whatever they call it. I assume like the inside scenes where the characters had dialogue inside like their cabins and the buildings. I assume those were the Universal Studios shot scenes. And the one outside of course, in Alaska, I'm not really sure. But they piece it together enough to where you can't really tell. That's what you want to do, especially if you want to make a movie of this magnitude. It was very well done. I gotta talk about the creature effects. What good is a review like this without talking about the creature itself? I mean, that's just common sense. It was done very well. It was one of those that you don't really see often. The ambiguity of it. It's one of those, it's a shapeshifter. It takes over a person's body, but in a way to where you can't really tell what the hell it is. It's just something that has not been done before. It was amazing. Rob Bottin did the special makeup effects and the practical effects of this. He was one of those that whatever popped in his head, he would do it. And he would make up these concept arts that would look very, very just off the wall, off the chain. And he just took a chance, showed it to John Carpenter, and he's like, I have no idea what I'm looking at, but let's try it. And thus, the thing was born. One of the scenes was the creature face popping out of the human face, and there was another where this corpse was being dragged over from the Norwegian area, It had like two faces. It looked like a sculpture, but it looked really good. It was mutated. It was just off the wall. It's one of those things that's kind of tough to describe because the way the thing takes over a body, it just turns it into a mangled mess. I guess that's the only way I could put it. The one scene that really stood out to me was the defibrillator scene. Right when the guy gets sick and you know, okay, something's not right with this guy. He's on the slanter, he's like passed out or something. And then the other guy takes the defibrillator and it starts putting it in his chest and it eats his arms off. The stomach just opens up and it rips his arms off. That was good. That was badass. That was wicked. And as the scene goes on, what comes out after that, that's the thing I remember most. Get it? That's the thing that really stood out to me. It was awesome the way the creature would morph in some of these characters once the creature got hold of said person. One was about the dog and how the face would just open up like a suction cup. And another would like split this man's head down the middle and just, devour another one. And another would look like this gigantic thing that would have like a dog's head poking out of like one part of his body. And then the actual face itself would look like an ant or a bug or something like that. Like I said, again, it's hard to describe exactly what this thing looked like. You could call it a parasite, you could call it a blob, you could call it this, or just a plain alien. The choice is up to you. But it was really tense, it was really dark, and it was really fun. The score was good too, even though I said in my last review that John Carpenter does most of his music on his films. That's true, but I did say most. That honor in this film went to Ennio Morricone. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. He had his own style about him, but you could tell that John Carpenter still had a hand in the score. Especially at the beginning, Ennio put his own style along with it. But you could tell that John Carpenter and this guy worked very close together so that they both had their own styles. And it really worked for the score of this film. It was more of a mixture, but it fit really well. Alright, let's talk characters. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the one I am going to mention is Kurt Russell. He plays MacReady, the leader of this film. He's like the badass, tough guy. He's very tough. He's a take action kind of guy. Very serious. He doesn't take shit from no one. You can tell once everything starts going down, you don't want to mess with this guy. You don't want to play with him. He's like serious and he will kill you if he does not trust you.
He ain't tying me up.
Then I'll have to kill you, child.
Then kill me.
I mean it.
Kurt Russell, I always thought of him as being a good actor. I don't really see him in much movies now. The last one I seen him in was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but he was a big deal back then. I think around the time he was doing Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, and all these other films that John Carpenter's also done, so you could tell that they had a really good working relationship. As far as now goes, I'm not really sure because John Carpenter's not really doing much movies now, but you can tell they had a really good working relationship. But this guy, MacReady, he doesn't play around. And he made a really good heroine for this film.
Yeah, fuck you too!
The rest of the cast, the rest of the characters was done really well. I was with them every step of the way. And let's go with direction. Of course, this is another John Carpenter film, as I mentioned before. And like his other films, as always, he always has the sense of the unknown. He put it in this film clearly that, once the thing gets a hold of you, you don't know who it is. That's the magic that John Carpenter always brings to his films. But the thing takes over a person's body, becomes that person, and you don't know who it is because it's a perfect suit. They hide well, sort of like cowards. And I like that aspect of this film. Again, that's what makes John Carpenter a legend of his time. He was very good at doing all that. This was actually the first big major studio hit for John Carpenter that John Carpenter got to make. I mean, granted, it wasn't a huge success at its time, which is very sad, but still, this was Carpenter's biggest opportunity. And at first, he was a little skeptical because this is a remake of the 1950s The Thing. If you watch the original Halloween film, they were playing that original Thing movie in the background. So when it came for him to do the remake, he was a little skeptical. He didn't want to do it at first. He's one of those directors that likes to think up of original ideas. And I respect that. I respect that. Most of what Hollywood comes out with nowadays, well, before theaters shut down and this mess started, nobody knows how to think of anything creative, anything new. And when somebody does, it doesn't never go well. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But the point being, with John Carpenter, he's one of those directors. He likes doing original concepts. So, of course, when the idea was brought up to him, he was a little skeptical. But then he pushed through, and he found that passion, and he found that angst to want to do it, and that need to want to make something good. And I think he succeeded really well. He pulled through, and he made a really great creature feature nonetheless. And the gore, shockingly, there was plenty of gore to be had. In most John Carpenter films, he always likes to leave it up to the imagination, which is another aspect of this guy that I respect. But if you're dealing with an alien parasite, you can't really make it without the gore completely. This film just felt grimmer because of that. And the way the shapeshifter would shapeshift the body itself. I mean, there's no way around that. It was much more visceral than most of his other films. But I think the film still worked very well in the sense of the Carpenter influence. Because there was still much of that to be had with the mystery of things of who could it be? Once all that would pass and the chaos would stop, the alien parasite would still move on, and you'd still have no clue who it is. I think this film really aged well, and it really held up well. And let's get into the mix. And this may not be that much of a big deal to most, but I thought the tone and pacing was a little draggy. It just felt a little lackluster. I don't know. It just didn't really feel like it was. It felt like it was dragging its heels in some areas and some scenes. It just wasn't quite 100%. If I would have to put a percentage on it, probably 70%, 70 to 75% of this film I enjoyed. But the rest of it felt kind of lackluster. But I could get past that because there was plenty of other moments to be enjoyed. If you're a creature feature fan and would like to see plenty of gore intensity, then this sweet delight is for you. So, The Thing, what did you think of it? Did you like the creature effects in it? Did you find it tense? Did you find it horrifying enough? Is this one of your favorite John Carpenter's films? Or have you seen better? Leave me your comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Like, subscribe, and comment if you hadn't already. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace the rip out.